I would say that a DApp needs to focus on user acquisition, think more about how they're gonna acquire traffic than acquire a community. There is no reason that when you are playing League of Legends, the items that you are buying don't belong to you, but still belong to the platform. We are fed up with infrastructure. We don't want to see architect anymore. That's it. We are equipped. Crypto is equipped in terms of infrastructure.
In crypto, attention moves fast, but adoption moves slower. And it's much harder to fake. The real test is whether users actually stay, trade, build, and come back. Today's guest operates at the intersection between narrative and real usage. Gabriel is a senior Web3 growth operator with deep experience scaling crypto platforms and driving growth by focusing on what ultimately matters most: active users. Gabriel, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Nasib, and thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you too. And let's begin with your background. What initially pulled you into crypto and into working on growth, right? Exactly on growth within a Web3 companies.
The thing is that I'm coming from the Web2 space. I'm doing, let's say, performance marketing for more than 15 years now. So I'm coming from a world than results are the most important. So I'm delivering real KPI to the people that I'm working with. So I have started creating companies, agencies that were focusing on performance, delivering sales, delivering leads, this kind of stuff for at the beginning the French market because I'm French, as you can tell, and then slowly I focused on a more, let's say, global market with the highest, more competitive industry in the world, which has, let's say, finance, trading platform, for instance, and fintech companies, but also gaming and iGaming companies. And then the next step was crypto. So in 2021, I have entered the crypto space doing an NFT collection, which was the Panda Dynasty collections. You have like a couple of examples here and there in my background. And so I have entered this space through the community aspect, through the cultural aspect of NFT in 2021, and like I felt deeply in love with the Web2 world, with the Web2 community, with the Web3, sorry, with the Web3 world and community. And this is where I did understand the power of Web3, and then I have started, let's say, a career in Web3. I have been VP digital marketing of Polkadot. Then I took care of the Web3 transformation of a big poker product, which is the World Poker Tour, WPLC global product. And finally, I have helped a big centralized exchange, OKX, to grow in France and in Europe in general.
Why do you think the industry repeatedly makes the mistake of confusing attention with success? Let's start with this right off the bat.
Well, as you mentioned, actually, the Web3 is coming mainly from a speculative background. So we do have this background, which is how we're gonna grow the chart of a token and how our end user are going to make like a lot of, let's say, profit investing on a token. This has made like a lot of, let's say, damages in the Web3 space because people have this in mind, like how I'm gonna get rich with crypto, how I'm gonna invest money and make a 10x, a 100x with the money invested, and this is one aspect of the crypto and Web3 space that is, according to me, like not the right approach. And the more crypto is maturing, the more we are putting this aside and focusing on real adoption. What is real adoption in crypto? Real adoption is products with a real user base that is using for a long time and deeply a product that is delivering a service. So we are coming back from, let's say, a speculative aspect of crypto into a more traditional aspect, answering to the most obvious question: what is my product? What is the problem that is solved by this product? And is there a market that is interested by this kind of solution? So let's say that the more crypto is maturing, the more Web3 is maturing, the more it looks like traditional industry with the same kind of targets, which is having targeting a market, onboarding end users, and generating profits and fees in order to show that there are real business model in this industry with long-term vision.
When you evaluate a project today, what set of indicators tell you that adoption is real rather than narrative driven?
So, well, this is like super interesting question, but very complex because in crypto you have very different kind of products and very different kind of approach. So I will tell you like a couple of them just
Mhm.
to explain how I am analyzing this kind of product and how we can say that these companies or this brand has a potential or not. So, in crypto, it's a very large amount of companies with very different type of technology. You have like the chains themselves, L1, L2, L whatever. You have like dApps, and you also have like some kind of protocols, for instance, and services that are delivered from a decentralized aspect, mainly on the DeFi space, for instance. But really, like crypto is a continent. There are so many projects. It's super hard, like to give large and general KPIs that are going to be adapted to all the kind of products. But let's say that right now, analyzing L1 or L2, for instance, I think the most important KPI that should be focused on is the number of transactions. The number of transactions really means adoption for this kind of technology. And for an L1, the number of transaction is not coming targeting directly end users. It's coming from the capacity of those projects to onboard new developers. The potential in terms of ecosystem growth and DevRel for the L1 and L2 means that at the end of the process, how adoption is going to come from the final end users. And this is something that actually was very well understood by the Solana ecosystem, that is really focusing its narrative into the developers acquisition aspect and not the end users. And this is something that is super smart from the Solana, let's say, marketing narrative and the marketing, let's say, speeches that they are building. So one point for Solana, introducing this ecosystem growth as the main target for a chain itself. But like for dApps, I wouldn't have like this kind of speech and alternative. I would say that a dApp needs to focus on user acquisition like a traditional application, and they should think more about how they're going to acquire traffic than acquire a community. It's super interesting to have a community, of course, but you need to think about the community as a stakeholder, not as clients. And this is something that was very confusing at the time of NFT, for instance, because the NFT projects were building communities and they were mixing the communities with their clients. And this is like one of the
Mhm.
main issue that the cultural oriented projects are doing. You need to focus on your clients, on your users, and not on your community building. We can quote, for instance, let's say Bored Apes Yacht Club. They were so successful in terms of acquiring retail investors, community people that are going to invest in their tokens, invest in their assets. But at the end of the day, can you mention one product coming from the Bored Ape Yacht Club project with like a real adoption? No, it doesn't exist. So the most important for a dApps, for a project with like a, let's say, a retail B2C orientation, is really like to be able to onboard real clients and real end users at the end of their funnels. And let's say that for the protocols, we can quote, for instance, I don't know, like Aave or Lido, the lending or the staking protocols. The most important is being able to create partnerships with like major, let's say, DeFi ecosystem or DeFi products in order to see their protocols being used by final products with a direct connection with the end users. So I have like created like the environment of the marketing aspect for the main crypto companies, or you target end users, or you target developers, or you target partnerships and institutions in order to grow your ecosystem and to reach at some point the most important KPI that are going to prove your business model.
In your experience scaling platforms, how often does narrative first growth actually translate into durable user adoption?
Well, I'm like a big fighter against this narrative-oriented marketing people. I do think that narrative is actually a very powerful angle in order to acquire the KPI, the marketing KPI that you do have in mind. But this shouldn't be your final target, your final goal. Narrative is not something that is going to make your project successful on the long term. You need to have this performance orientation for your marketing. You need to understand that at the end of your funnels, at
Mm.
the end of your campaigns, some KPIs are going to represent your success. And narrative is a tool that can be super powerful, that should be able to adapt to the last trends, to the last behavior of the crypto space. But it's not a final goal. It's just a tool that is going to support your marketing initiative with a performance aspect at the end of each actions you're going to do.
If you had to ignore metrics like TVL, token price, or social reach entirely, what user behaviors would you look at to understand whether a crypto product truly has a product market fit?
So again, like you're talking about more like, let's say, when you're talking about TVL, when you're talking about this kind of stuff, we are talking more about like the projects that are infrastructure
Mhm.
and protocols able to really like handle a traffic that is going to invest in their ecosystem. But it's way more important to have like long-term KPI that are going to prove a real activity within your ecosystem. So as I mentioned, I would say that uh, um, the number of transaction of daily transaction that your protocol is able to generate is super important.
Mhm.
I would say as well, the fees generated by your protocol, by your blockchain, daily or monthly, is also super interesting. We did have shared a lot on LinkedIn and X, for instance, all those infographics showing how some protocols are generating almost nothing in terms of fees,
Mm.
and others like Base, like Arbitrum, but also, of course, Ethereum and Solana are really creating some kind of a business model coming from the fees generated by their blockchains on a daily basis. So it's really important to understand that those blockchains are not um, uh, solutions that are going just like to deliver products with no goal. It's really important that to understand that they are here to, at the end of the day, generate transactions and generate fees.
At what point does incentive driven growth stop creating real users and start creating purely mercenary capital?
Yeah, sure. So actually, giving this kind of incentive can be translated from the let's say Web 2 perspective as some kind of loyalty program.
Mhm.
I For this kind of incentive is nothing but giving back some, let's say, outcomes and rewards to people in order to adopt and acquire your technology. If you are just launching this kind of incentive without a product that can be used by these people, you are missing the point. You can think about Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid made like a huge program in terms of incentive, and they were able to really give back a lot of the fees generated by their technology into their first investors and into the retail directly. But as the product was performing, as the people were using the product, as the token has like a real use within a Hyperliquid ecosystem, the chart was not like a disaster with a peak and a backlash. It was like the chart of Hyperliquid is solid, and the people are don't think about Hyperliquid as a token only, but as a real product with a long-term usage. So, okay for this kind of incentive, okay for this kind of airdrops. It's fine. It's bringing the first attention that is needed in order like to marketing grow your ecosystem, especially at the beginning. But thinking about launching a project only with that, with only this kind of hype growth of your chart is really a mistake. And I think less and less projects are in this, let's say, mindset, and more are thinking about long-term adoption now.
Let's stop for a minute. Here's a brief moment of context for those who may not know me. My name is Nasib Fathi. I'm a scientific researcher in the blockchain space, and I work with executives and organizations as a growth and media professional. My focus is crypto at the intersection of institutional finance, market structure, and regulation. You are watching the NFK podcast, where these topics are discussed through conversations with people shaping the development of digital assets space. Let's take a look at incentives from a different angle. So, how do teams that survive multiple cycles manage the tension internally when token holders, traders, and real users often have very different incentives?
Projects that are able to pass time and pass the multiple cycles and still being alive is like, I would say, the first proof that those guys are serious and the project is gonna long for a long, very long time. So I would say that once you have passed different cycles and you were able like to really bring some proof that your end users are adopted your product and protocols, I think you've made it. And if you I can add at the top of that like a real business model, proving that you are profitable, proving that in the long run you can really like bring some profits. This is it. You've made your stuff, and you can focus on your business and just consider your token as, let's say, a traditional company is thinking about their stock and the stock market.
Mhm.
So the stock is just the replication of the performance of your business, and a token should be connected directly with the performance of the business that you are able to generate with your end users and with the adoption, thus the profit coming from your end users.
I also think that one of the critical problems of the space is that tokens don't reflect the progress of the of the organization of the project and so on. But they live. It's like it is as if that's a completely different thing, and at the same time, it negatively impacts the progress of the project just because the price is going up and down because of this speculative demand changing all the time. So that's one of the weaknesses, and I see how people are stressing more and more these things and talking about it, and so looking forward to aligning those two. I think that's very meaningful and should be done earlier.
You totally
Um,
right. You're totally right. But let's say that most of the token that are going to zero are really replicating the fact that no one is using the protocol or no one is using the product at the end of the day. So I would say that 90% of the token that went to zero are deserving it because at
mhm.
the end of the day, there is no product, there is no adoption, there is no end user. So this is the first aspect. The second aspect, the let's say the product with like a deep decrease of their token, but with like real adoption, I'm like a believer that at the end of the day, they will come back. Just look at what happened to Solana. They were almost at zero after the FTX crash. And it's just like unbelievable how they were able to come back because they just continue to work on it and prove that the adoption is like the first goal of their blockchain. And when you see at this chart from like let's say a newbie perspective, it's like those guys just come back from the from hell, like from the death.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And this
That's
is totally possible to replicate for all the projects with a real usage and with a real product.
I agree. Also, let's talk about product and UX in Web3. So you have argued that the next billion-dollar Web3 company probably will not be a complex new protocol, but a simple product with great UX. I agree with that, by the way. So why has Web3 historically struggled with product design?
Because again, because of speculation. So many people are focusing on speculation, quick money with a token launch, and then just forget about the adoption. It's like human nature. I think
Mm.
it's fine. We just like there is no need like to despise this kind of action. People are gambling for a very long time. Let's say like from the beginning of humanity. It's a shame, but let's say that this is the reality of human nature. But we need to focus more on the, let's say, maybe 1%, 5% of the project that are focusing on adoption. And I would say
Mm.
that this should be the main focus and the main thought that the serious people in crypto should have. So yeah, like I gave on my LinkedIn, like let's say a list of super simple projects that don't exist in the crypto space, but that should exist, such as like it was like fun to think about it, but I'm just wondering why there is no RWA token that is just replicating the S&P 500 index, but within the crypto market. I would
Mhm.
say that it's also super important to have like simple products able to secure your wallet with just one click. And if you think that there is a risk that someone is going to steal your token, clicking on one button will block everything. Also, I would say that there are a lot of different games, super simple games that should be replicated within the crypto industry, especially the the what I'm calling like casual games and casual gamings should be like a whole again continent that should be replicated within the crypto space. There are so many super simple product focus on crypto adoption that are missing. I would say that's a shame. And to quote an example, one other example, the success of a product, some like Polymarket,
Mhm.
is like a proof that if you are doing an interface that is really fitting what the audience is needed, there is a good chance that you are going to be a success. So retail projects, B2C interfaces, something made for the end consumer can be like a huge success even in the crypto space, with like all the time in mind how you are going to integrate the crypto technology in order to improve the business model and the adoption, but not focusing on your token and focusing on your chart.
Crypto Twitter is going, or Crypto X is going crazy about tokenization in general, tokenization by BlackRock, and how Larry Fink and others are speaking about the tokenization of literally everything. So you mentioned the tokenization of S&P 500. Do you think that this will happen, and what kind of will it bring to the space?
One of the next big narrative in crypto is clearly, a yield bearing token.
Mhm.
So how buying a token will be able to give you back some yield coming from the performance of the, let's say, the asset that you tokenized. So this is like a next big wave that is going to come in the next, let's say, years, maybe months. And all the traditional finance targeting also retail that are investing in stocks, in index, in commodities, in let's say gold as well, is is for sure something that is going to happen. When you see how Tether is thriving with something with zero use, with zero innovation, people are just buying, are just exchanging their crypto into a stable USD. It's like it's nothing. It's like you only have dollars in front of you without any yield, without any investment, without anything. But billions and billions of dollars are exchanged from traditional crypto into USDT. But the next step is clearly to earn some yield coming from all this USDT that is sleeping on your wallet. So all these token that are going to be able to give you some yield, some revenue, some profits, just because that you are holding them, is clearly like the next big thing. And I don't see any reason that is not going to happen in the future.
Agreed. And what about you mentioned the games, right? I must ask you a question. What about GTA 6? How do you envision, for example, in this context, the crypto integration or NFT integration? How would this in this open world big game, a lot of users anticipating this moment of the developers integrating the technology, right? Where either the DeFi in general, I mean at least Bitcoin, for example, or NFT. So on the NFTs. So what do you think? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Sure, sure. I have done a lot like of projects in the gaming space and the iGaming space. So I have thought a lot about how to integrate this kind of assets in the gaming industry. For me, the main innovation for crypto is actually this digital ownership.
Mhm.
Bitcoin has invented one thing, again, according to me, and maybe some Bitcoin maximalists are going to yell and say that, to scream and say that I'm not too deep enough, but I don't care. Let's say that the most important is the digital ownership. That is expanding from first a currency into the whole digital, your whole digital world. So I would say that gaming is really one of the space that should be the main focus of this kind of stuff, because in games you do have a lot of digital items that can be tokenized, that can be converted into NFT, that can be then held by people and exchange, maybe sold from a gamer to another. This should be disconnected from the speculative aspect. Again, of course, we all love crypto because it brings a lot of hype because of speculation, and you can turn rich from a day to another. But in games, this is not the point. People are playing because they want to have fun. They are playing because they want to have like a fun party with their friends and with people online. There is no reason that when you are playing League of Legends, when you are playing this kind of games, the items that you are buying don't belong to you, but still belong to the platform. Thanks to NFT, it's able to disconnect the items ownership from the platform. And this is like the beauty of crypto. This is the freedom that we love, um, coming from the blockchain, that gives you all the power, permissionless power, to hold assets without a relationship to any kind of platform. So I would say that all the games that are delivering the ownership of the items that they are creating to the end user, um, are games that understood the power of blockchain. And there is one blockchain like super interesting, which is Stake. It's not very well known, but it's a blockchain with huge games and zero fees for the people that are exchanging their NFT from the games using Stake as the blockchain, for this gaming platform. So Stake totally understood that if they kill all the frontier, all the barriers that are preventing people from buying and exchanging those digital items, but keeping the ownership, this is something that proves that actually people love the fact that they can totally be the holders of their, let's say, digital life within this kind of games.
Founders want to move crypto into the mainstream. What product categories still feel massively underbuilt today?
Um, I think that retail is actually something that should be like the next move. DeFi has proved that a market exists, and
Mhm.
adoption can be there, and people start using blockchain as a tool to reappropriate all the trading tools and all the trading technologies for the main for the financial category.
As well as payments, lending, borrowing, right? This is very important. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And then I would say that all the retail stuff, all the life of people that are outside the finance should be the next big move. And I like a deep believer that actually gaming, casual gaming, uh, some games that are on your mobile, on your Telegram profile, should be like the next big thing that is coming from crypto.
So gaming, in a way, can become the next adoption bridge, right? For the next, let's say, actually millions of users, right? I do believe that, especially if that would be integrated into these big competitive games, right? And at the same time, big games with enormous votes, which people love. Okay. So let's talk about exchanges, some exchange product growth mechanics, also compare the growth between centralized and decentralized exchanges. You've worked closely on exchange growth. What are the main drivers of user acquisition for centralized exchanges today?
Well, the thing is that with exchange, actually, the end user of an exchange want to invest and gain, like speculate and gain profits from the investment he has done. A centralized exchange is the replication of, let's say, a trading investment platform in the Web2 space.
Mhm,
So actually, we are targeting, let's say, believers of a certain project, a certain protocol, and we want to target them in order, like, for let's say, an investment that is very close to an opportunist investment in stock in the Web2 space, or let's say in the stock exchange market in general. So,
mhm,
as you are targeting people that want to invest in Tesla or want to invest in Nasdaq, for instance, you try to target people that want to invest on Ethereum, Solana, or any kind of, like, a big crypto projects with a potential in terms of uh, the price
mhm,
growth. So the people that are helping us, like the main leverage in terms of marketing and growth in order to acquire this kind of people, are actually, let's say, influencers and KOLs
mhm.
that are very active on a lot of different channels. That can be YouTube, that can be Instagram, that can be X, that can be also Telegram, for instance. And we are trying to create some kind of partnerships with them in order to help their audience to understand the market, to understand the news, to be very educated in terms of how to take advantage of the news in order to invest wisely their amount in the crypto world, with avoiding all the risk and avoiding all the danger that are coming from this kind of investment.
Once users sign up, what determines whether they become active traders and long-term users rather than dormant accounts when it comes to, again, centralized exchanges?
Well, a dormant account can be also very interesting account. People are investing long term, and it's
Mhm.
fine. There is no reason, like, to only target people that are going to daily trade, or scalp, or really like a very active daily trading activity. So people that are investing long term in a crypto project because they believe that this project is going to be adopted and thus create some revenue is also totally fine. This kind of centralized exchange are targeting have developed a lot of different products in order to facilitate the crypto investment for all type of behavior, which is not only speculation but also, like, um, uh, staking, yield oriented, people that just, for instance, believe that Ethereum is the next big thing. So there is no reason, like, to have, like, a portion of your saving within the Ethereum ecosystem, with a part of it staked into with an objective to generate some yearly yield coming from that.
When an exchange launches in a new market, for example, EU, what are the first metrics you watch to determine whether the growth strategy is working?
Yeah. So for to begin, let's say that if an exchange wants to enter EU, I wish him good luck. it's super tough, and the regulation is right now very, very complex. And in order like to be able to be approved by MiCA and by all the regulator of Europe, it's like a deep and long-term work with compliance in order to be able to really deliver your product within the EU ecosystem. Plus, it implies a lot in terms of margin and in terms of profitability within EU, and it's a very, very complex group of countries to target if you want to launch right now a centralized exchange in Europe. But there are some marketing techniques and marketing, let's say, strategy in order to be able to target this very interesting, well-educated region. And I would say that if you want to grow in Europe, you should focus on education, delivering value, and trying to make people understand what is a blockchain, what are the different type of projects, and what are their potential in terms of future profits, um, using the news as a way to make them understand why this project is really solving like a deep problem and why it's going to thrive in the future.
So events
Yeah.
and KOL marketing. Does it come second after that?
I would say that they should be used to support this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
For instance, at OKX, what I have done a lot is that actually partnership with KOLs
Mhm.
in order to educate the European market, to make them understand deeply the crypto projects and the crypto technology. So it's more like for a centralized exchange, being able to create an ecosystem of people, of KOLs, but also of events that are going to be a vector of their message to educate people and then use the platform as the technology to adapt and to concretely invest in their strategy. So the centralized exchange is more like, let's say, a technical partner that is going to be here to be like the concrete product to make you invest in the education you have taken from the KOLs and from the event you have participated in.
Mhm. Do you see courses becoming courses, workshops, and webinars, webcasts becoming more and more popular among these exchanges that are coming and flowing to Europe?
They are doing yeah, they are doing a lot in terms of academy, like
Hmm.
to understand deeply. They are also doing a lot in order like to translate the news, translate what is happening right now in the world into crypto information, because the news implicate some stuff in the economy in general, and so in the crypto ecosystem in particular. Something really important to understand when you are trading crypto, when you are investing in crypto, is that it's less connected to gold than in Nasdaq. So you are investing in a technology industry, and the more Nasdaq and technological assets are affected, the more chances you will have your crypto to be affected as well. So it's very important to really understand the economy, the macroeconomy, to be able to start investing in crypto as well. It's not a disconnected space from the traditional industry. It's quite the opposite. The
kind of
crypto
correlated. Yeah, it was scientifically proven as well.
is
Yeah.
very related to the traditional industry. Yes.
What are the common growth mistakes centralized exchanges make when trying to scale globally? So not only in Europe, but other regions as well.
The crypto exchanges are making one big mistake is focusing on their brand less than performance marketing. They are doing a lot in terms of growing their brand, doing partnerships with like a big soccer teams or Formula One teams, this kind of stuff, thinking about their brand and how they are going to appear as a global brand, this kind of thing. My main focus, as I said from the beginning, is really like focusing on performance marketing. And so I prefer like creating campaigns with a CPA in mind, the cost per acquisition, the cost per action, more than sponsoring TV shows and TV commercial that are at the end of the day are not going to bring you any kind of strong results for your campaigns.
Yeah, I've seen some exchanges throw it feels like, they're just experimenting a lot. I will frame it this way. But the kind of thing that when you are publishing something, so an article in the local, for example, newspaper, I I'm not completely sure whether your target audience is actually reading that. So yeah, they should probably sponsor podcasts like mine. So, yeah, where we're actually discussing things in more detail. When a major narrative such as DeFi, NFTs, or AI takes over the market, what concrete changes do you observe inside exchanges in terms of trading behavior, liquidity flows, or new user segments?
So the exchanges need to adapt a lot to this kind of trend and to this kind of narrative. They really like investing a lot
Mm,
in terms of listing. And
mhm,
what they're doing is that they try to be as reactive
mhm,
possible in order to really like list the tokens that are hype at the very specific moment into their platform to make their clients able also to take the opportunities of the very last project with the very last narrative and play the game of this kind of thing. For instance, I mean like the hyperliquid again is a very good example because um, centralized exchange make their best to list Hyperliquid as soon as possible within their platforms to
mhm.
be able to answer to the demand of their clients.
When deciding whether to support a new asset tied to a rising narrative, how much of the decision is driven by expected user demand versus the risk of amplifying short-term hype?
To enter a crypto exchange, a centralized exchange strategy, you need to understand that you do have like top funnel tokens that are going to be a good way to acquire some new
Mm,
traffic and then let the product itself to make the people educate themselves and start being every day more wise and more sharp in terms of investment.
mhm,
So I would say that it's not always a bad thing to follow the trend, but this shouldn't be your strategy. It should be like only like one step of your whole marketing funnel. So of course, no one is recommending to play badly and from a speculation perspective into this kind of hype tokens, but you cannot say that this is not bringing attention and this is not bringing like potential in terms of top funnel acquisition. So I would say that it's super interesting to be very close to this kind of new trend, to this kind of new narrative, to this kind of new stuff that are happening on X, for instance, not to focus all your efforts on that, but just to understand how you can use it in order to integrate them into your marketing funnel.
How different is the growth playbook for scaling a decentralized exchange compared to selling centralized exchange? Because Decentralized exchanges, they're becoming increasingly competitive. We've
Sure.
been talking about this a lot throughout the episode. And, and exactly platforms like Hyperliquid, they've shown that DEX can deliver performance and trading experience comparable to centralized exchanges. And I think that's very important, right? That's even pivotal in a way. So to repeat again the question, how different is the growth playbook for scaling a DEX compared to scaling a centralized exchange?
I would say that decentralized exchange is the final goal,
Mhm.
and centralized exchange have understood that. And there are more and more centralized exchange that are creating some kind of a long funnel from the centralized space into the decentralized, creating more and more products that are decentralized, and they're trying to again educate and convert their centralized traffic into decentralized ones. You can think about BitGet, for instance, but also OKX, for instance. They are doing a lot in terms of decentralization, creating wallets, creating DEX, creating also perp DEX and competitors of Polymarket, for instance, also to be able really like to educate their audience to start onboarding into the decentralized space. So there is no really like opposition and competition between the two, and it's very complementary products because at the end of the day, when you are using a centralized exchange, you are using like maybe 10% of the power of the DeFi, and it's a shame because people needs to be educated and turn from let's say the decentralized space into the centralized space into the decentralized one.
But the user experience as user interface of when it comes to centralized exchanges is completely different, right? So my next question was, do you think DEXs will capture a meaningful portion of exchange activity, or will centralized exchanges remain dominant for most users, at least because of UX and UI?
True. Well, they are doing a lot in terms of UX improvement.
Mhm,
When you're going right now into OKX wallet, for instance,
mhm,
you do not feel that you are in a decentralized space and in a
mhm.
decentralized user experience. Like it's way more seamless, way more customer centric. There are a lot of investment efforts and really like um, developers focusing on improving the experience on the decentralized space. So I would say that decentralized is not targeting another audience, but it's really here to attract people that are newbie interested by crypto that have created an account into a centralized exchange, but slowly they will be converted and transformed into the decentralized space.
Just a big question of how compliant everything will be, right? Because DEXs um, traditionally they involve and introduce a lot of freedom, but at the same time there is no KYC, AML procedures, and so on and so forth. Which is happening on centralized exchanges, and therefore a lot of companies, especially publicly traded companies, for example, in yes, they can't really go and deep dive into decentralized finance because they never know whether tomorrow they will face a lawsuit because they're supporting and financing terrorists and so on, so forth. Yeah.
Well, I am involving into the, let's say, the compliant world and to the
Mm.
compliant space. I would say that maybe it's going to take some time, but compliance is going to really like take care of everything. They will really select the brands and the products that are fitting their regulations, and they will find a way to um, to reduce and to really cancel the bad behavior from the products that are not respecting their regulation. So I would see a future more um, dominantly created by big brands able to both create centralized exchange in a very safe as a very safe place, and having also decentralized products that are respecting also 100% all the recommendation coming from the regulator. So according to me, the future of web3 is not what we are experiencing right now. There won't be so many pirates, so many projects totally out of the scope of the regulator, but more like the big brands that are adapting to all the what you have quoted in terms of compliance for their also decentralized products.
Let's talk about multi-chain growth strategy because many builders still design products around a single chain, but how important do you think is a multi-chain strategy for user growth today, as of 2026?
So I'm only talking about the marketing aspect. I'm a marketing guy and I'm here
Mhm.
to talk about how we can use this kind of stuff from a marketing and acquisition perspective. For me, an ecosystem is a user base potential. And there is no reason to narrow your marketing strategy into only one pocket of traffic that is fitting one blockchain ecosystem. So there is no reason when you are building like a Web3 project to say, I'm like a Ethereum believer, so I'm only going to create something for L1 and let's say EVM ecosystem. There is no reason. You need also to understand that Solana ecosystem is huge, that actually Base ecosystem is huge, BNB ecosystem targeting the Asian market is something that you cannot avoid, even if Ton ecosystem is not that decentralized. There is not reason not to try to acquire all this activity that is happening on Telegram as well. So I would say that uh, think marketing, think adoption. If you do feel that there is one shortcut in order to acquire a certain user base because you are going to connect with a certain blockchain ecosystem, you need to make it, because the most important is to bring as many end users as possible into your product, into your DApp. So again, I'm not talking about as like a maximalist. I'm not talking about like somebody like a huge deep believer of blockchain as a philosophical ecosystem, but more as a pragmatic way of acquiring as many qualified audience as possible using all the technology and all the tools that blockchain is helping you to onboard.
Interestingly, a lot of VCs that I talk to, they also believe that the future is multi-chain, right? But my next question is, Ethereum L2s, Solana, BNB chain, right, we've mentioned, all have very different user behavior and liquidity patterns. That's also important. So how should founders think about building products across these ecosystems?
Well, it's like for me, it's like doing a benchmark of the potential audience that you can target and how they are going to fit your product. If you are building a game, if you are building like a DeFi protocol, if you are building some kind of investment platform, you need to understand what is your product and what is the market that you are going to target. If your market looks like, for instance, an Asian market, or if you do feel that you have more like a European DNA, if you feel that you are more like a, let's say, a degen oriented product, it will implicate some stuff in terms of your persona. What is your
Mm.
ICP? What is the clients that that you really do want to onboard within your ecosystem? And so it's really important, like, to take marketing decisions associated to technical decisions when when you are selecting the first blockchain you are going to build on. So this is like really like my deep believing on the marketing category selected by the blockchain category that you are going to choose.
You have argued that many Western founders misunderstand where real crypto adoption is happening. Why do you think Asia has become such a strong center of gravity for crypto usage?
Well, Asia is the center of crypto activity. It's not
Mhm,
like when you think about crypto, it's not like a portion of the crypto adoption which is in Asia. It's something around 80% of the wallets and
mhm,
90% of the activity in crypto in general. So if you don't have an Asian perspective when you are building your product, when you are
mhm.
building your marketing strategy, you are totally out of the picture. It's really interesting to understand that a lot of projects still do have this kind of European Western reflex, American reflex, in terms of go-to-market strategy, in terms of channels that they are going to use in order like to really like onboard the first users and this kind of thing. But if you don't integrate WeChat, if you don't integrate blockchains that are related to the Asian market, you are totally out of the picture. And super important to really have this Asian DNA when you are building a project into the crypto and Web3 space.
What about other regions? Because recently I had an interview and I learned that payments, fintech, and Web3 ecosystem is actually blossoming also in Latin America, in South America, in Africa, right? But also Asia, 100%. But surprisingly, not surprisingly, it's just happened, at least me myself, I haven't mentioned it that much previously, but all of a sudden Latin America is just glowing, right? So and it's great. Um, and I started mentioning that because I was focused recently more on payments, right, fintech, and so on. And I saw this, and I realized that yeah, the ecosystem is blossoming there. What do you think? Like, why is this happening?
The first promise of crypto was to bank the unbanked.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about these unbanked people, we were talking about this kind of a region with no access to the banking product and to the financial product. And crypto was really here to bring this kind of product to such big regions without this kind of products and without this kind of efficient products and tools to the banking system. So this kind of region are largely populated. We're talking about billions of people with no access to the direct financial system that we do know in Europe and in the US and all the major places in the world in terms of financial ecosystem. So uh, onboarding this kind of, let's say, African countries, LATAM countries, Southeast Asian countries with your product is something like super powerful. And in terms of growth, that can happen like super fast because of the high level of activity and behavior in this kind of region.
What differences do you see in how users in Asia, also let's come back to Asia. So, what differences do you see in how users in Asia interact with exchanges or trading products compared to users in the US or Europe?
So when you're talking about Asia, is very huge continent with a lot of
Mhm,
different type of behavior. I would define like two main region. Let's say Middle East
mhm.
and Southeast Asia, with the China pole and the rest of the satellite countries around China. I would say that in terms of Middle East activity, what centralized exchange and project in general are expecting is trying to onboard big whales and people with like a high potential in terms of investment power.
Mhm.
So it's not like a volume market. Middle East is not like a volume market. It's a way. It's like an approach where you need like to really try to find the highest uh, potential in terms of revenue and in terms of investment power. So this is the game. The game in Middle East is trying to find the big wealth. For Asia, it's a totally different game, even though that there are a lot of huge wealth as well in China and in these kind of countries, for instance. But I would say um, playing the Southeast Asia game is more playing a game of community, peer-to-peer recommendation, and trying to integrate groups that are going to grow organically your messages and your adoption from a friend to a friend, from a community member into a community member. So it's more a volume game, being able to enter the Asian market, the Southeast Asian market, than the Middle East market, which is more like a very precise targeting oriented marketing.
If a founder is building a global crypto product today, how should they rethink their go-to-market strategy, especially given the current geopolitical situation?
Well, we are clearly living like a hard time in terms of geopolitics, and the war in Middle East is not helping at all the, let's say, the prices in general, and so affect the market in general. But it's a good time to build. It's a good time to understand that adoption and marketing strategy are a very important way to prove that your product has a real usage, and that is going to really like solve problem. So the recommendation that that I can give in terms of marketing are the exact ones that you can expect from a startup in the Web2 space. Build a very build a POC, try to prove your concept with small amount of people, and then scale. Don't try to launch a token super fast. Don't focus on your chart or on your token price. Focus on your product, on the capacity of your product to convert an audience into clients. And once you do have the hardcore clients at the beginning that are using a lot your product, then start to think about how you will be able to scale it. But Web3 is becoming more and more closer. uh, Web3 is every day closer to Web2 in terms of adoption, activity, and user base.
If you look at the next phase of the industry, do you think the biggest breakthroughs will come from better infrastructure or better applications?
We are fed up with infrastructure. We don't want to see architect anymore. That's it. We are equipped. Crypto is equipped in terms of infrastructure. There are so many layers. People are now able to improve the performance of the existing layers, coming with like a new form of blockchain, a new form of technology in order to disrupt the protocols. I think it's a bad move, because when you see like the investment power and the development power of the Ethereum ecosystem, the Solana ecosystem, and so many other blockchains, there is no way to compete again with this kind of architecture. Please bring us interesting products that are going to use the power of this infrastructure for the end user, for the mainstream traffic. We want dApps, we want games, we want products that are going really to bring interesting experience and interesting tools for the uh, end users and for the user base. This is the most important, to stop thinking about how you're going to help people to build, but start building by yourself.
Over the next 5 years, how do you expect crypto platforms and exchanges to evolve?
I really do hope that it's going to turn mainstream. I really do hope that the reputation of blockchain is not going to be related anymore into, let's say, the speculation and the quick wins. I do feel that crypto is an industry by itself. The power of digital ownership should spread into a lot of different products. And I would really advocate in order to help the centralized exchange and the decentralized product to start onboarding the next billion of users into their ecosystem.
How, for listeners who want to follow your work and your thinking, where can they connect with you? That's the closing question.
So I'm super active on LinkedIn. People can reach me. People can follow my daily posts that I am doing on LinkedIn. I'm trying to do my best in order, like, to enlighten the crypto people on how to use marketing as a super powerful tool in terms of adoption to acquire a new traffic and to retain this traffic within their products into the whole list of crypto projects. So just add me on LinkedIn, drop me a line. I'm super active there, and I will be more than happy to understand your project and try to give you like the first recommendation that I can give in order to help you grow.
Gabriel, thanks for joining me and sharing your perspective on growth, adoption, and the evolution of crypto platforms. So many other topics as well. And to everyone listening or watching, like, subscribe, or follow both of us, and share this episode with someone curious.